So, hi guys.
Hello.
Hello. How you doing? So, welcome to our chat this afternoon. We are here with Vitor Matos and Tom Hansel. Thank you, Vitor, for coming to this call.
No, my pleasure.
Really appreciate it, and I think our students will be very glad to hear the insights from you, especially because they are already fed up with me and Tom. So the idea of this is to kind of get an insight of your life as a coach, what you've been doing, what experience did you have, and how come those experiences can kind of help our students to have a further insight into the football industry. As we know, is a very competitive environment, is a very messy and confused at times. And I think these stories are really important. At least when I was a student and still as an academic, I truly value these insights because it gives us a better perspective of the role, the coaching role, and also the industry. So I don't know how you guys want to start this, but as a first point of contact, I think it would be important to kind of let our students know what was your past, how this love for football started.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to share experience and knowledge, and I believe that is the starting point for all the professions. So it's really good to do it, especially with both of you. So starting a little about how I start. I was lucky, I can say, because I found it really early in my life what I wanted to be and what was my passion. So I think around 9, 8, I started to play as a football player, and then around 15, I had in my mind that I want to be a coach. So this in the beginning was, I believe, the both uh, fuel, I can say, for my job today. So yeah, after that was a normal process. So I keep playing until my senior year. Then I went to the university. At the same time, I had offered to start as a head coach, as assistant coach, and at the same time I was in the university. So that is also, I believe, one of the on my life story. It could be one of the most important moments because I was able to get the knowledge from the university, so this academic knowledge, and at the same time put it on practice on the training sessions. So these connections between the two parts of a student were really, really unbelievable. What was an amazing experience on the beginning. So I was a really, really young coach. I started with 19 years old, I believe, 19, 20 years old as an head coach, and at the same time in the university. So it was really, I listened what the teachers say, and then I put it on practice, and then I say, okay, this is, I like this, I don't like this, I believe is better, this not. So I was always I can say thinking about the process and thinking about how to improve and how to sort a lot of problems. So yeah, it was really good. Then was a normal pathway on the professional life that I follow. So I started one club, then I got an offer to go to another one. Then I went to Porto. So Porto was also really important because it was a youth development project, but with real focus on development and real focus on uh, uh, putting the players on the first team, and at the same time with a real project with the game principles, with individual development, with the methodology that can really help the process to go. And then China. So China was a little out of the box, but was a really good experience, especially understanding what is really important, and now we can, in a small, how we can, for example, in a different context, how we can choose what is more important on that moment that really make the difference for the next step. So China was really important on that. Then I returned to Porto, and then now I am in the dream job of Liverpool. So all good.
Yeah. I kind of, that gives you a sense of the kind of years that has been as your life as a coach, the kind of difference of jobs that you take over, and kind of the different contexts and countries even. Going back, starting from the beginning, for those who don't know, I study with you, so I kind of have fond memories of you as a student and as a colleague. I remember I think we were in the second year of university, and I remember when you say that those experiences of you being a coach were very valuable, I remember to think, how does he know that? And he actually now makes perfect sense, because at the time I felt you had such a realistic understanding of the practice that I didn't have, and I had like kind of an idealized idea of practice. So I completely agree. But then, what do you think it was essential on your coach education at those periods of time that was particularly remarkable for you?
So how I say, there was different moments around all along of this process. So on that period, so was second year of university, so was more around when I started as a coach, was on that period as well. So one thing that is important to say is in Portugal, I think, I don't know if it's here the same in England, so we can go through UEFA course via. So I go to a football association, I take the football coach course. So I did that when I was 18. So before I went to university, I was already with that course. So that allows me to start earlier as a coach, because I didn't need to finish the university to have a degree. So I did that. So that allowed me on the second year, started as a coach already. And then on that moment, there was a really important, I can say, teacher and methodology that really make me see things different. So, and this is a little connected with when I decided to be a coach. So I start reading and trying to understand a little more about training, and I found one thing that was called tactical periodization. So this training methodology was on Porto University. That was so there was a person that would teach about this. So that person was my professor on the second year. So that, I believe, so he was the professor of high performance training in
methodology.
Football methodology. Yeah, so something like this. And that was a really moment that, because one thing is what we have in our minds about the game, so our game idea, and then the other thing is how we put this on a team and how we put this on the practice. So this methodology allowed me on that time and now to have a clear view how I want to build all the process on the training and how to be able to put our ideas and this development in the, how I say, in the consistent and logical process on the training session. So this year, that subject, I don't know if it's the right name, and that subject was really important, that we on the university had the option to choose. So I want to be more specialized on swimming coach, so I will go on that area. I want to be on football, so I go straight to football. I want to be on, I don't know, rugby, I go to rugby. So that on that period was really important, because okay, now I will have something more specific, not so general, about sports, or really a bit about football. So that was really good on that time.
Yeah, I completely remember those times that the classroom would feel full. I remember that I chose swimming, and at the time I used to go and watch that professor. So, would you be able to? I know is a very long methodology to explain, but kind of in simple words, would you be able to kind of tell our students kind of the main principles of that periodization methodology?
Yeah, it's more about we can say how we can is a training methodology that use the game as the core ingredient, the game and the competition, and at the same time allow us to uh, improve the team and our game idea come together and make a development of our collective approach to the game. So was this is I believe the simple way to explain it.
Yeah.
So it's more about giving a tactical overview about everything, but everything is connected with that tactical, and we understand tactical as a way to organize the team in the way we want. Okay, so our way of playing, knowing that this way of playing we need to develop day by day, and then probably we get uh, cl- uh, closer to that, but in the end never there. So it's always this kind of process.
Yeah.
So then there is a lot of things that we can say is that they are, so there is the individual development, the collective development, and how we measure all this during the week. This week is not a week, is just a period of time between two games, and how is everything related with that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, as I remember, it's kind of this game-based approach where all decisions in the training session were based on the game, and it was based on the tactical principles of the game, and it was
Yeah.
everything, even physical conditioning of the players was related with that.
Yeah.
So it
Because
was never done in go.
one thing is that we believe that if you have your way of playing, the physical approach is related with that. So it's not something that is a part of that, but it's something that is related with that. So it should come together. And at the same time, it's more like, okay, if we believe that the game and the training should have the same pattern, knowing that you cannot train the same things all days. So you need to balance this. So it's more about
Yeah.
how to yeah, but good. Then I can say there was another moment that was really important, and I think it could be important to say it because so when I was on Porto, I was not only head coach, so I was assistant coach, head coach, opposition analyst, I can say, and I had for 6 years these different roles in the club, and these allow me to see how it was all the process. So our kid with 9 years or 8 years go into the club, and then I see it. Okay, when he will be 17, because I was, for example, head coach of under 12 and then assistant coach of under 17, and then I was head coach of under 15 and then assistant coach of under 19. So these roles allow me to see a lot, and was really important to have that because it gave me a complete overview of all the process in the youth perspective. So it was really good as well. So it was something that was make all the sense for me to do it.
You start working with Porto straight after university or still during university?
No, so I think, let me see, I started in Porto in 2011, I believe. Yeah, 2011. So was the date that we stopped university and I started. So was in the same, but because the university, I believe I so I finished it on September. So I was already in Porto, so it was more about, yeah,
Yeah,
but was in the same year. Yeah, we can say in the same year.
Tom, I guess this is kind of the approach that Vitor is talking is kind of the what we nowadays call a game-based approach, but it's slightly different because it has more in tune with the, or, you know, not just the principles are the same, but kind of this methodology, the way I perceived it, and I remember it, it was more about the tactical principles and just focus on the tactic, or letting the tactic talk for the game, and not necessarily just focus on technical and in isolation.
Yeah. And ultimately, Joe, those two things have huge overlap, right? So, Vito, I'm really interested in just how you plan for individuals. So, you spoke about players like transition into first team in your role at Porto, and just the way in which you go about structuring your sort of practices to help support the individuals within the team environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, okay. So I need to explain. So the idea is that the way you play, it will influentiate at the same the individual development. So if your way of playing is more about, let's put it like this, so you want to have the ball more time, so you have to attack more, you want to create more. So these ideas or these principles will have influence on the individual development, because the player will make more decisions, will touch the ball more times, it will create and be more offensive more times. So this is one part of it. So
yeah,
as rich is your idea so if it's a rich idea on this kind of behaviors, we believe that in the end it will help the individual development. So this is one part. The other thing is, okay, but if you want to talk to a high performance level, sometimes this is not we can help the player individual to achieve another level. So how we can do it? So we believe in three things that we can do. So one thing is, so we look to the player, and then we see, okay, what is in what he is really strong. So when we look to him, what we know that, okay, he's good because he does this really well. Yeah. So this is one part. This part we need to potentiate. Okay, so with an exercise on our game idea, how we can position that player on the pitch with relation with who, when he has the ball more time. So these kind of things. This is one part. The other part is, okay, now we know that if we improve this little thing, like a first touch, like having an overview of the pitch, he will be a better player on his individual potential. So how we refine this little thing. And then the third thing is, okay, let's see that he, in the role that we want, he is like a fullback or a center back. And we know that, okay, for our role, it's really important that he have a really good heading, or a really good tackle, or a really good blocking the space, or this kind of thing. So now we need to develop this for making, in a way that we know that in the end, maybe will not be the top on that, but you will be able to hide and find another solutions for that problem. So this is the base. Now put it on practice. The idea is that, for example, we found ways that in a game situation or in an exercise that have competition and have this variability that we want, we have this. So we can say, for example, a midfielder that need to improve his overview and the pressing behind, and need to look to both sides and need to turn. So we can make it, for example, with 1-against-1 in the middle, one joker in each side, and then you need to move the ball between the two jokers. So it's something for him specific, and then we go through the feedback to teach him something. We can do it like this. We can do it, for example, in a situation that, let me think, it could be more about, okay, we show him in a video, okay, so you watch it, then we do it, then, okay, this is the mistake, you watch it again, and then we do it, and then this is what you are improving. So there is different ways of do it, but in the end, is that we need always to start from the game idea, or the one how we want to play, and how is the collective approach. Because let's put it like this: if in your game idea is not important that a midfielder turn, but is important that a midfielder just long pass and be there for the second ball, so you will not find these little problems on that player.
Yeah.
But if your game idea or the game idea of the project, of the youth project, is something rich on this, you will find these little details that you will help them as a player to become professional. So it's more about this in the individual development. And so there is a lot of things, and you know Arvi, and for example, Arvi is a good example of a talent player. So there is some players that are good, and the only thing we need to do is just guide them. Okay, and it's really important to say, because sometimes we look to a glass and we see the half glass full or the full half glass. So it's different how we see it, but yeah. So we have a real talent, so we need to take care of that talent and not just look for the weaknesses that are there, because on that way it's impossible. So how we can in the game hide little things, and how we can potentiate the best things of that. So that is something about we can say how we can develop players, knowing that is a level for a high level, because this is also important. One thing is, okay, let's put it on Portugal. So one thing is coaching Porto, and one thing is coaching another team. So the approach need to be a little different, because in the end you are trying to making players for the first team that is really competitive, and sometimes you are making players to allow them to play. So this is different.
Yeah. And
I don't know if I answered your question, Tom.
It was a really detailed answer, so thank you. The one thing that is really clear from what you're saying is just having this really clear game model. And I'm just intrigued, both in relation to how you in your own mind have created this, a game model that you really believe in, versus also potentially the game model of the club. And is there, how much power and autonomy have you had in relation to developing a game model that you really believe in as an individual, versus perhaps, some of the constraints that you might find with the club?
Sorry, Tom, I didn't hear the last part of the question.
No problem. I suppose I'm reflecting on your experiences, and you're talking about how important a game model, having a really clear game model is. I suppose I'm really interested in how you yourself go about having this idea, your own personal idea about how the game should be played, versus potentially working at clubs where that gets dictated to you.
Different, yeah. So that is a really interesting question, and I think in the end it should come together because of the role. So the game idea is really different of the game idea that the person have on that role. Let's put it like this. So a person have one idea, but the project have another idea. First, I believe that in the first moment we should hire that person considering that, but imagine that doesn't happen. So I believe that the person on that role should start first from the player. So see, okay, these are the talent players that you have in the club. The game idea, I believe, will not push them to development, but if we do these small times on the training session during a week, in the end will help them to improve something. So I think it will need to be a balance between what you can approach to the training process and what you can do for that individual player. Let me put it more in a practical situation. So imagine that the team have idea of, okay, long balls, striker, second balls, goal. Okay, let's take it for a midfielder because it's easier. Okay, he is not having enough balls, he's not playing enough. So if we see that player is talent and he need to have this, so okay, an easy training session, let's put it in a ball possession game or in a small field game, on something that you touch a lot of times, you make a lot of decisions, you need to dribble, you need to have, so you need to balance this. So the game idea don't bring them to there, but you balance with the training session in order to have an approach that is more clear to you, I believe.
Yeah. And again, I really appreciate the way, and I think our students will, just the way in which you're giving really practical examples to your answers. So thank you for doing that. It certainly helps me understand as well. So thanks for taking the time to do that. I'm really interested in then when you talk about these talented individuals, how you begin to plan for them over a period of time. So particularly with your model, and how much time do you invest in planning, both from like quite micro cycles to more, longitudinal?
Yeah, a good question as well. So, and the answer is, you never know, because, and that is something that is, it depends a lot of the sensibility of the person in charge of the process, because it's like this. So if we say, so let's put it on a player. So this player have problems on finishing diagonal balls. Let's put it like this. Okay, so we start making exercises and game situations that these kind of things happen a lot of times. So we start development. Okay, my idea is that, okay, let's do this for 2 weeks, and then we need to see how goes the process. But if we start from an approach that we look to the player and we see, okay, this is what we need to start working, is different that we look to we can say a plan, and then we put this plan on the player. Yeah. You know what I'm meaning, Tom? For example, if you start by, okay, he is now under 15, and under 15 players should be like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, like this. And then you look to the player, you take this plan and put it on the player, and you say, okay, now he does this, okay, check, he doesn't do this, okay, he start doing. It's different from you look to the player and see, okay, so for he reach next level, I should start on this. And then you make the process to develop that part. I believe on that approach more than having a plan and then put it on the player. Because
agreed. Yeah.
If you do that, it will help on one thing that is like, first is more specific, and second, it gives you and gives the player the freedom to, okay, is above that level, let's challenge more. Yeah. It's below that level, let's adjust again. So, and then there is one thing that is really important to say, that is, okay, and then how we can see it first in the games, and these games should be really important to see it. So I believe more that we look to the game and see it. For example, then you do this for 1 week, then you have game on Saturday. Okay, so let's see how it is. Yeah. And then see, okay, he didn't do it so much times like I wanted, because the opposition team was more like this, because the team we play it like this, because he was not, okay, focused, because, okay, you still need to develop. So then you think about the game, and then, okay, let's make it again, or not, or just this. So always thinking about the process, I believe, is the best way to be closer to the player and to the improvement of it. So
and when there's disruptions to that plan, I suppose I'm thinking about your current role. Let's say X number of players are selected for the first team, and therefore they might what they do in training, what they do, the experiences that they then get in games. And then they come back to you. Just talk us through that process of, I suppose, considering those things from like a physical perspective, their opportunities to practice different things. It'd just be really interesting.
Yeah. So that is really the key of my role. Yeah. So I'm in the first team. So being in the first team allow me to one thing, that is, I have a clear view of the needs of the high level. This is one. And the second thing is, having in consideration the first team process that is the most important for the club, we can say, we need to adjust the other ones. So let's put it like this. So there is 4 players that we believe that they are really good. And then these 4 players, we in the first team have game, let's put it Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday. But the under 23 play Sunday. Okay? So our decision need to be on this. So first, when the first team need the players, okay? Then if the players are need for a training session or they are need for the development, we need to think on, okay, so let's see it. Is more important that he made that training session with the first team, or is more important that he goes to play for the under 23? So this is the first question. Second question is, okay, if he goes to play on the under 23, he will not be able on the next day to have a high performance in the training because he's tired now. So let's think, okay, but if he doesn't play for the under 23 and he'll be on the first team training session, the training session will be, intense enough for him to have a good moment on that day, yes or no? So these kind of things is what you always need to think about these players that are in transitional between the 2 teams. Knowing that our idea is that, okay, in the first team need to have space for these players, because it's always better when the players from the academy come to the first team to train. Is the best moments for them because they have big players there, role models. They see how they train, they see how they play, they see how they behave in a training session. So all of these for the young players, it's really unbelievable. Is a big amount of on the development. Then they have this space. Now it's just about who should come when and for what. Okay. So if it is really important to come to the first team and be there for one period of 2 weeks, even if you don't play, why is important to do it? If he's not there, why he should be playing more consistent on the under 23? So then when is more about, okay, is the right moment for him? How is his daily life? How he's dealing when he goes to the under 23? How he's behave when he's here in the first team? So is the right moment? Is not the right moment? And why should come? Because, for example, the training sessions in the first team will be more about one principle, will be more about strategic, will be more about this. So is it important for him to come or not? So these questions is what you really need to make yourself during all of this time to make sure that all the process is connected. Then there is 2 things that I believe that are also important. So the training methodology of the second team should be as close as possible of the first team, especially on under 23, we can say, because that allows the player that when he is with the under 23, he still is doing something similar to the first team. So this helps on this migration of players, because when he comes down, okay, so I comes down on a -3 training session, so I know it will be around this, and then when I go to the first team again, I know that will be around this. So there is a really good interview that Messi gave, I think, last month, and he said that when he went to the first team when he was young, it was something really easy because he knew already all the things. So how much close the process are, much easier is for the players to go, much easier is for them to have success, and it's you are more close to don't have so much injuries. So these things are connected. Then also training methodology should be as close as possible, and then the game idea as well. So because if you, let's see it, if you on the first team are playing in that way, and then on the under 23 you are playing in a complete different way. Imagine that the player trains all the week with the first team, and then the coach say, okay, you need game time because it's important, so go play under 23, and then it's like something that, wow, I don't know. So if the things are not connected, the process is not consistent, and the process is not doesn't have fluidity. So that kills the individual development. And this is the other part, and that's why also is also important to say it. So let's put it that these 4 players, they need to develop something that will help them for the future. So if they are in the first team more times, the first team staff can see it. Okay, they really need to improve this to be here with us. Then, okay, we make a plan. So I make a plan. I say, okay, this player, you need to make it these kind of things. You need to improve on this. You need to improve on this. And then when he goes to the academy coaches know, okay, we will work with him, and then we need to have space for these individual things, because when he goes there, they should focus on that individual aspects, we can say. So this also connects between the two things, because when I was the coach of under 70, I believe that all the players can come to the first team. For me, they were top players. But then when I was in the first team, I said, okay, yeah, maybe 2 can come and 1 will be lucky for being here. So it's always like this. So if there is no connection, it's really difficult for the academy to know if they are making a good perspective or not. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you go. Ladies first. No? So thank you, because kind of that is the kind of insights that we were looking for, and is really important. And for me, especially, that comes from other sport, is really meaningful. And talking about that, you kind of talk about, obviously, only 2 or 3 go to the first team, and how do you manage that, or what is the most challenging on you managing those emotions, those, that player, the maturation of that player, because I imagine that some of them might move to the first team and not be ready. How kind of you, or in the clubs that you have worked with, what are the kind of a support that you guys have to work with those players to make them more ready to make that transition?
So for example, let's see it. It's really important, the character, we can say, the sports character of a person is really, really important. That is the first question, and that will make really the difference, I believe. So if you found a player that is talent and have this kind of character, is really unbelievable, because he goes like he flies over the process. This is one. The second thing is, okay, so sometimes it's not easy emotionally, because you are really close to being the first team, and then you drop, and then you, okay, I lose everything again, and then I win everything again, and then I lose. So these kind of things emotional are not easy. That's clear. But the first thing that they really need to know is, okay, you go to the first team to learn this, and this. And when you go back to the under 23, you go back there because now you need to lead and need to teach the others this, and this. So when they have this, how I say, in one side, the idea that I go there to learn something and to improve something. And when I go back, I need to go there also to learn something, but more important, to teach and to lead, helps a lot. But helps for a period of time, because if they are like this for 2 or 3 years, it dies, right? So, but this is the starting point. Second is, okay, I believe that how much close you are to them, to making them understand why this is a normal process, because nowadays is really, so the media make pressure that with 18 years old you need to be the best of Europe, of the world. Then with 18 years old you need to have a professional contract with millions. So all the people around, all the media, all the agents make this like a big thing. But if you need to find ways that showing that don't need to be like this, there it could be in another way, and it's part of how you can do it. There is no recipe for that, but I think it's really important that you should start from the person you have in front of you. So if you know, because then this is, I coach a lot of different players, but I can say, for example, these two extremes. So one player, so he came from a really poor family. So the family with lot of problems, lot of times don't have food to eat. So this kind of environment. So for this player, the anger that he has is unbelievable. So he really wants to do everything but at the same time, the frustration that he has is really unbelievable. So when you say to him, you will not play today, or you will not be on the team list today, it's not about him. It's about, okay, I will not play. I will not put food in my family. So you need always to start from the players. And you have the other approach that, okay, you come from a really good environment, okay, really calm life, everything organized. So sometimes these players also get used to the life. So, okay, I'm good. So when you say to him, let's put it like this, when you say to him, okay, today you don't play because you're not, okay, no problem, I play the next one. So you need to find a way to say, okay, but I need to challenge him, because if no, he will lose this anger to train, to improve. So it's always about how you can balance, and you won't only know it when you know the people that are in front of you. If you don't know him, it's impossible. For me, it's impossible to make them a challenge, or to make them understand how is the process, that because you also never know.
So what kind of strategies are you guys, or if you have, I imagine that you guys establish a very close relationship with those players because you see them all the time. Obviously, working in the club that you are working now, that's some standard. But if we talk about lower squads and lower development squads, those transitions probably are higher. Or even if you are talking about kids, that you have parents around and you have all these complex.
It's always different, because, for example, Joanna, if a player comes to is in this moment and he goes for the first team and starts playing, all good, because he's already playing, he's already on the first team, so all good. It's easy, right? But the problem is when he starts going and then not playing, and then starts dropping down, and then go again and then dropping down. So it's always about how you manage this and how you do it. You really need to first, for example, on my role, so I visit players' house, I visit house parenting, so I see how they are. I spoke with him outside of the pitch. So there is a lot of things you can do. So we have also a psychologist in the club, and he's making also different approaches with them in order to help on this moment, because it's really is a really important moment. But it's like I'm saying, sometimes you don't need, sometimes you need a lot, sometimes it's like there is no recipe and there is no starting point. I can say that the starting point is you really need to know them is the best solution, because after that you can help them.
I think you kind of define exactly what maybe loads of literature says, that the better you know your players, the more you entrust for their lives and for their for themselves as human beings, the better, because you are able to build a rapport with them, and then you are able to work. But also it's important for our students to understand like how in contact you are with other with other aspects of their life, just focus on their training and their physical aspect.
It's really, really important, that because you can only know them and help them when you start realizing other things. Is the same question, for example, if a player make all of his process playing on the start 11, when he goes his first time to the bench, how we will handle it. So it's the same thing. So you only know him when he goes to the bench and how he will react. So you cannot say that I know him really well, but he plays all the time 90 minutes, so all good. It's perfect for him, it's perfect for me. So it's always on these moments that he is confronted, I don't know if it's the right word, with something different and with something that is not counted, that you start knowing that person. So it's the same thing. If you don't know him how he is in school, if you don't know him how he is in the daily life and how we handle small problems on his life, it's not easy. And what the experience tells me is that when you start having a relationship of respect, the players start also asking you about daily life problems. So when you create this kind of relationship is when you can really
Trust.
yeah, and is when we can really make it like, okay, now I can really influence him on something, because now it's not about he's not saying that they need to understand that when we are friends, when we are coach, and then when we are we need to say they are good, you are good, and when we say that you are bad, you are bad. So they need to understand that this is how you build a relationship. It's not always saying good things, it's not always saying bad things, but it's a natural relationship. A natural relationship is like I'm saying, oh, good, really good interview, or I'm saying, no, guys, yeah, was really bad, so next time don't call
We're
me.
not authorized to say that. This is arranged.
We'll edit that bit out.
Oh.
Lisa, I just want to go back to one of the comments you made earlier. I'm just really fascinated that you've already already in your career delivered coaching across 3 different countries and cultures, and that's a really that's also a really brave decision to make. So I'm just interested in like your own personal reflections on those, taking up those different roles across different countries. It must have been, at the time, it must have been a real like headache whether to move countries, leave family behind, all of those things. So I'm really intrigued into your decisions to do that.
Yeah, the different reasons. For example, the decision of China was in base of 2 big reasons. One is the economical approach, so it was really different from Portugal. And the second is really about the challenge. So about the challenge because the project was more about not only coaching and not only developing players, but also teaching the Chinese coaches of the club. So the project of the club was this time there. We teach the Chinese coaches of the club how to do it, how to train, how to develop, we can say. We are there for a period of time and then they can continue with all the process. So it was a really and unbelievable. We had like 38 pitches of football. We had a lot of players. So it was a really big and massive club in China. So is the 4th biggest club, but was the first before Evergrande, but is still the first club, we can say, on the youth teams. So it was really a big project. So it was good. The philosophy of the coaches is really different, and what I can say is different because of their courses, we can say, because in China, so China is not authorized to give courses to the coaches. So they need to go, for example, to South Korea, to Japan, to Malaysia also, I think, and they can take the courses of a coach. So, and who goes teach on these courses? Sometimes are Brazilian coaches, sometimes are German coaches, sometimes are Portuguese coaches. So sometimes
no English coaches.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably. Funny, yeah. But there is no. But the problem was there was so much different information and big amount of everything that in the end they just okay. What is the exercise? Oh, is this one? So I pick a book, I choose one exercise, and I make that exercise. So I really don't think of why I'm doing this. What is the goal of this? I'm just choosing one. Okay, I do it and done. So This is how the the mentality was a little. So, for example, we went there to develop the coaches, but what the coaches want was just, okay, Vitor, can you make a training plan for me? And then I go to the field and I do that training plan. So they don't really understand what is behind everything. So it was a really big fight for 2 years to change a little the mentality.
Yeah.
But was really good. We found 1 million of strategy to change the coaches, to change the mentality of the board as well. But was really good. And right now they are still with Portuguese coaches there. So it was a really good one. It was really good. Then here in England, so it's different as well. So one difference between England and Portugal is the competition system on the youth teams. So in Portugal is really, how I can say, is really strong, the competition system. So you start competing with under 9. You already have a championship, you already have a table, you already have fixtures organized. So you know already. So this creates, you have also always good and bad things in both ways, but what this creates, I believe, when you teach them how to compete is really important as well, because they know, okay, I lose, but why I lose, what I can do to win. And this is the beauty of the game as well, because a football game can teach you a lot of things. One thing is that if you work hard, you will win something of it. If you are lazy, probably you will lose something. You'll lose the game. So this is the basic for a lot of things. Second is, you not only depend of yourself, you depend also of your teammates. And also, if you are selfish enough to don't pass him the ball to him, probably you will play bad and the coach puts you on the bench. So you are learning something as well. So these kind of values that you can learn from a football game are amount of that. So I really believe on that, and I really believe that you can really create a good approach for young kids just because they play football. But always depend of how you see it, because for sure in Portugal there is a lot of problems also that, okay, he's competing with an 8 years old or 9 and the father is shouting from the
bench.
Saying, okay, you play like that. So this is a problem, right? But we need to see it the other way as well. So but good. What was really good, I really believe that I really enjoying these times of having different cultures. For me were really important, because it gives me the sense of, okay, what is really important on this moment here and what is not so important, and how you can start building something. Because if you start with everything, in the end you don't have nothing. So
I just think it's really a really great sort of like take home lesson, particularly for our students. Just so far, just the level of investment that you've made in your own professional development. Even going back to your university days where you said you were coaching at the same time, I can only imagine like the number of hours that must have added up to in a week for you. And then to make these big changes, to invest in what you've described as challenges, is really refreshing, and also just a really good take-home message, I think.
Top. Thank you, Tom.
No, I agree. Thank you, Vitor, because, well, I knew that you have put all that work, but you finally being rewarded for that, and I hope you still carry on with this career, this amazing career that you are building. Thank you very much for helping us and sharing
a bit. Better.
What?
With all the words. Now I feel really good one with all the words. Thank you.
Vitor, thank you on behalf of St Mary's. We're really grateful, particularly for your time during this period. I know it must be pretty odd for everyone, but we appreciate how busy you are, and to give up your time. We're eternally grateful, and your insights were excellent. So thank you.
No, thank you, for the invitation, Tom. And when both of you need something, please feel free to do it and to call me and to ask for something.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's really appreciated. And we might have some questions from students. If we do, then I might pop you an email.
Good.
Thank you very much. And it was a pleasure, as always.
Okay.
Stay safe and and carry on with good success for the club and for yourself.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom, Joanna. Bye-bye.
No worries. Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Cheers. Okay, speak soon. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Yeah.